psychological thriller, copyright 2025. By J. Wdowski. The dance. After the three-course meal, the wedding cake was rolled out from another room. It was so large that May jokingly thought it was actually from the bachelor party, and a sexy petite stripper was going to surprisingly jump out it. The bride and groom rose to cut the cake. After the newlywed couple fed each other forkfuls of the cake, they began cutting slices for their guests. Patricia's father had hired a classical string quintet of 2 violinists, 2 violists, and cellists. They were all members of a New York Philharmonic, playing as a special favor for her father and a hefty fee. They played classical music as the bride and groom went to each table to serve pieces of the wedding cake to their guests. Patricia was not worth millions like her father. She worked for an NGO for only a 6-figure salary that ran halfway houses for women recently released from prison. May had learned from Patricia that her duties were basically throwing elaborate parties for wealthy couples and politicians that had access to government funding. They are looking for feel-good projects. Patricia explained to May once. As for the politicians, we would make sure to use some of the government funds to donate back to their political campaigns. She had tried to get May to join her, but May did not want her salary tied to a limited percentage of the budget of the NGO. She had bigger dreams than only 6 figures. May chose to be an assistant to the owner of a major Manhattan talent agency. A job she did not need her expensive university degree to do. She got the coveted position because the founder of the agency had been a close personal friend of her late mother's. May did not make much. It barely paid her living expenses and slowly paid off her student loans. Her parents were both killed in a car accident when she was in her senior year at university. They did not have the wealth of Patricia's father and left her nothing substantial. Her parents only had the house, which they had 2 mortgages on. Not able to afford the property taxes, she was forced to sell her childhood home. The bank, the realtor, and back taxes took nearly all from the sale, leaving May with nothing. She did not want to struggle like her parents did. They barely kept their head above water, due to living a bit above their means. May's goal was to perhaps meet up with a rising star represented by the agency that could be worth millions someday and have those desired movie star looks as a bonus. After the cake, Patricia went to the dance floor for the traditional throwing of the wedding bouquet. All the single women, including Patricia's 10-year-old cousin, stood behind the bride, anticipating her throw. Laughing, Patricia gave a strong backward pitch. The bouquet of white roses seemed to tumble in the air in slow motion and was heading directly to her cousin in the front row of single women. The girl's face lit up with glee as she saw the roses coming straight towards her, when suddenly a woman's hands reached out above her and intercepted the flowers. The girl, disappointed, looked behind her and up at May, who was holding the roses. May looked down at the young girl and smiled. Next time. The bride sat on a chair in the middle of the dance floor. Her groom knelt before her. She raised the hem of her second dress that she had changed into just before the reception. It was just as stunning but easier to dance in later in the evening. The groom rubbed his hands together to warm them up. He then cupped them before his face and blew warm air upon them, rubbing his hands again. The crowd egged him to go for it, as they all laughed. He gave the crowd a devilish smile as he reached up higher and higher under her dress and up her right leg. Patricia theatrically moaned, playing to the crowd. The crowd laughed harder at her performance. His hands finally came out from under her dress, holding one of her garters. The groom now stood alone, and the single men stood behind him. Like flicking a large rubber band, he loosed the garter over his shoulder. As it tumbled in the air, all the single men, as agreed upon earlier, stepped away from the throw. The garter landed at Sean Brighton's feet. The group of men laughed as Sean knelt down and picked it up. He glanced towards May, who stood, holding the wedding bouquet. May sat on a single chair in the middle of the dance floor. Sean knelt before her. He did not warm his hands. He began to slide the garter slightly up May's right leg. He smiled at her, but seemed a bit embarrassed in his actions and hesitant to go too far. May was surprised in his hesitation. The crowd all began chanting, "Higher! Higher!" May looked down at him. She lightly straightened her right leg to make it easier for him to venture further up. She gave him a flirtatious smile, as if she was daring him. "Is that all you got?" Sean took her dare and did go higher up her perfect slender leg. She gave the same orgasmic expression and moan as Patricia had done earlier, yet hers was so believable that Patricia's aunt felt the need to cover her young daughter's eyes. The crowd responded to May's performance with one loud, "Oh!" The dance floor was cleared of the chair. The bride and groom alone began to dance to a slow and romantic waltz played by the quartet. May stood next to Sean as they both watched the couple dance. She turned to Sean. "Are you not going to ask me to dance, Mr. Brighton? I would think it is the least you could do after our very intimate and very public encounter." He turned and looked down at her. He was almost a head taller than May. He took her right hand into his lefts and placed his right hand on the small of her back as he drew her close to him. May felt he was powerful, firm, and yet gentle as he held her. She felt safe in his arms. She looked up at him, her eyes softened, waiting for his next move. With the music, he carried her onto the dance floor, dancing alongside the bride and groom. The rest of the guests all followed, dancing and enjoying the string quartet. Looking up into his eyes, he warmly smiled at her. They both said nothing as they moved as one to the music. So this is what fairy tales feel like. She thought to herself as she enjoyed the aroma of his cologne mixed with his natural musk.